Does not matter at all what Trump is saying. It doesn't matter. The moment his protective detail identifies that he is under threat, Trump would have been tackled off of that stage and removed and placed into an armored vehicle in less than 10 seconds. That is SOP, standard operating procedure. It does not matter if that person that you're protecting is telling you stop. It doesn't matter if they say, no, let me XYZ. That person, the moment a threat emerges, no longer has agency over their body. The protective detail owns their body. The protective detail owns their physical reality until they are in an armored vehicle and extracted. And that all is supposed to happen in 10 seconds. Something is fucking off here.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Johnny 5-0 channel. Today I'm going to show you a series of clips from the attempt on the life of former President Donald Trump from July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. These clips will highlight the utter incompetence of law enforcement and Secret Service that day. I will do my best to present both sides of the story on its being a legitimate attempt on his life versus a publicity stunt and a photo op, both of which are absolutely plausible. Though I'm only human and it'll be far from perfect, this is just one man's opinion. At the end of the day, something went drastically wrong that day and the days leading up to the event. I'll include commentary from former military operators, some of whom are elite special forces, snipers, and one gentleman who operated in the Marine Corps working PSD, which is personal security detail, which is the equivalent of the Secret Service for generals and high-ranking officers and other high-value targets. The level of buffoonery and incompetence shown on this day, recorded from so many different angles, is unprecedented in the history of security details. Was this an event to garner sympathy after all the negative press that Donald Trump has gotten in the last few weeks with all of his court appearances and right before the RNC convention and his vice presidential pick? Is this his Reichstag fire moment? If you're unfamiliar with the Reichstag fire incident, in 1933 in Germany, it was a false flag event where communists set fire to the Reichstag, their parliament building. And so when Hitler took power, he then retaliated against said communists that started the fire. Will we see retaliation against the left for this incident? And let's get it straight, kids. There is no such thing as left and right when it comes to political parties. Both parties are owned by the billionaires, the oligarchs, and as George Carlin said it best, there's two kinds of people in the world. There's millionaires and suckers. Which one are you? And let's revise that from millionaire to billionaire for today's standards.
Because that's all you ever hear about in this country is our differences. That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us, things that make us different from one another. That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They try to divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the fucking money. Fairly simple thing, happens to work. You know, anything different, that's what they're going to talk about. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank. You know how I describe the economic and social classes in this country? The upper class keeps all of the money, pays none of the taxes. The middle class pays all of the taxes, does all of the work. The poor are there just to scare the shit out of the middle class. Keep them showing up at those jobs.
I saw a quote recently from Frank Zappa. Politics is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex. I'm going to show you this little graphic that shows you the difference between the left and the right when it comes to the military-industrial complex. Nothing personifies that there is no difference between the right and the left. So was this Trump's Reichstag moment or a legitimate attempt on his life? I'm filming this video on July 16th, only a couple days after the incident. Obviously, more will be revealed in the days, months, years to come. But I truly want to hear your opinions on what all took place. One argument could easily be made for really energizing the base. If you thought you were a 10 out of 10 Trump supporter prior to this incident, you're probably ready to go to war at this point. Credit will be given. And on the other side, the Trump supporters are agreement that this was a plot from the Biden administration to take him out. Also, CNN's headline from today. Here's the CNN headline saying that there was human intelligence, air quotes, that there was a threat from Iran to take out Trump. The military-industrial complex owns us. If and when Trump gets into office, I guarantee you he'll start a war with Iran on January 20th. We're all being played, people. The billionaires love this. They don't send their kids and grandkids to combat. They send ours. So there's three main takeaways from this incident. One, was it a lone gunman? Number two, was it a government inside job trying to eliminate Trump? Or number three, was it an inside job by Trump's own people to garner support and sympathy right before the election? I want to hear from you guys. All right, let's get into it. Here's the first of several clips.
What happened?
Move his spear. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Hawkeye's here.
Hawkeye's here. Move it to the fair.
Fair, get ready. Fair, get ready.
You ready? We're good. Shooter's down. Are we good to move?
Clear.
Let's move. Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head, it's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay. Let's shoot down. Let's shoot.
Watch out.
And watch and listen to the rally, right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, But we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle.
A rifle.
We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police are like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes.
He was up there.
You saw him up there for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling
Yep.
the police and the Secret Service?
We were telling the police. We were pointing at him for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Could they see
Binoculars.
Could they see him?
Probably not, because the roof, the way the slope went, he was behind where they could see. But why is there not Secret Service on all of these roofs here? This is not a big place.
Did you see, obviously everyone, when the shooting started, everyone was very panicked. Did you see what happened to him at all?
Oh, yeah, they blew his head off.
Okay, sorry.
Secret Service blew his head off.
Okay, just be careful because we don't quite know who's watching, but you're pretty sure they shot the guy?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
You saw that happen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you see them go up to him afterwards, or?
They crawled up on the roof. They had their guns pointed at him, make sure he was dead. He was dead, and that was it. It was over.
This next clip shows the two counter snipers looking down their scopes at the shooter, but do not engage until he shoots first. Have the rules of engagement changed?
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
This entire scenario could have been completely avoided, and this is why. As a sniper, I am not just there for target acquisition and pulling the trigger. I am the eyes, the ears, and the communication piece for my entire team. In fact, the sniper team in question called themselves Hawkeyes. Believe it or not, they need to change that name. As a sniper, you are a two-man reconnaissance element most of the time, and you go in on what's called an advance party 1 or 2 days before Trump ever gets there. As a sniper, the first thing you do is create a range card. Now, this could be on the back of an MRE card for you hard-charging Marines and SEALs out there, or an array of Gucci systems. Either way, it don't matter. On this range card, I write down every advantage point that the enemy may have over me. Or you could say disadvantage points. I know the exact location and distance of each position, and by the time I'm finished assessing the entire area, I thoroughly understand the white building in front of me is in fact what we call dead space in the SEAL teams, meaning if I can't see the entire roof from my position, whether it's a 6-inch ledge, an elevated position above me, or the roof is angled like one of the witnesses said, I'm going to communicate this crucial information to my team. But even if the roof is not dead space, you still have the backside of the building, aka dead space. So I'm going to tell my team that we need a state trooper, a police officer, someone as a permanent static guard position to every point where someone can climb onto one of these buildings. I'm not going to place guys on the roof because deconfliction issues when things get real saucy. None of this happened. Now, let's say the sniper team actually was glassing through their scope and saw the guy crawling on the roof with the M16. These counter snipers are supposed to have a wide latitude of discretion when it comes to squeezing that trigger. So if they waited to get permission, or they waited on the gunman to take shots at Trump, shame on them. And we can only blame the weak reactive policies of the Biden administration. This is a complete embarrassment to our nation because we are no longer the proactive aggressors that save lives. And it comes all the way from the top where Biden sits, and it's destroying America from within. Don't forget to join my new SEAL Mindset Tribe by clicking that link in my bio, and I'll see you on my next video. Touch point.
I don't know the angle of attack here, but he might have took the round and it skipped off his head. He might have took the round and it lacerated his ear, and it could have been the same round that killed the spectator behind him. This is definitely a deadly thing that happened. Now, the pictures that I saw, the video that I saw, there was 2 counter snipers. Now, my background is I was a sniper. I was a sniper most of my career. I went to Special Operations Target Interdiction course, which is what Green Beret, Delta, Ranger snipers go to. The best snipers. We go to that schoolhouse to qualify us as snipers. That's not where my expertise comes in because I'm likely outdated. I'm already old and don't understand the new weapon systems and optics and ballistic calculators these guys are using. I can tell you a little bit about what I saw from the picture I saw, but what I do know as a senior sniper who evolved into a master sergeant, into a sergeant major, is the understanding of how to plan sniper operations, including counter sniper operations, as well as PSD operations. I part of my job in GRS, the Global Response Staff Office for the agency, was obviously PSD. It was just a different type of it. But I have done protective services for presidents and generals. So I know the general scheme of maneuver. But if you're a PSD expert or a Secret Service agent, I don't mean to insult your intelligence by saying something that's not true. So I'll keep the very specific tactical components of it out of it. Also for some OPSEC purposes as well. When you look at a counter sniper team and the orientation where they're located, they were likely covering the structures that were above and likely the threat to the rally. Those snipers appeared to be squared away according to an observation of their kit and their guns. I think the guy who was kind of sitting up had a more elevated position. Not the guy who was laying prone, but the guy who had an elevated position had likely a 25 plus magnified variable optic. And I think he had probably a 40 power. Now, what does 25 power look like as a variable optic at 100 yards? Insane, right? You're talking about looking at looking through your objective lens and seeing the dude's eyeball zoomed in. I mean, if you're a hunter, you know this, like too much variable magnification is not a good thing. I mean, it's good to have, but man, you have to dial back out because you need to get a kind of situation awareness of the big picture. I thought, based on his actions of lifting his head off the glass and then back in, that he likely had to do some fine-tune adjustments based off of that. And by the time he broke the shot, it looked to be a 338 lapel. If you know, because you're a Secret Service guy or you have some expertise, let us know in the comments below. It looked like a 338 lapel or a heavy bore or big bore rifle. I'm thinking 338 lapel. So let's say 300 Win Mag, 338 lapel. I mean, anything. What's your hold at that distance? You're holding center of the reticle. There's no dial up required. I imagine the Secret Service doesn't use a bullet drop compensator to dial their elevation because they have to do rapid engagement scenarios. But at 100 to 200 meters, there is no hold. It's center mass, which is a good thing, right? A good thing for a rapid engagement scenario or just having the target in your lens. But what the impression I got, because he came off the glass, is he had a difficult time because he was likely dialed in. He came off the glass, saw it, he had to see it with the naked eye, then got back into it. And then I think he broke the shot. It's hard to tell in the video, but from all the video analysis that I've seen, people are saying that's when he broke the shot. I don't know if the dude in the prone broke the shot or he broke the shot. What's important to understand is that those snipers likely saved a lot of lives. So, do credit where credit, give them credit. I saw this one gal try to put away her pistol like 10 times, which I'm like, why would you put your pistol away at all? Especially you're 5 feet from Trump and you got your pistol and you're trying to put it in your holster and she couldn't find it. And then she finally looked at it and put it away instantaneously. Again, under stress. You can nitpick a whole bunch of different stuff, but I think fairly well were their actions and all the things that I looked at. Here's the problem. The Secret Service, if you're a nug, let me just call you a nug, a person on the ground who just has a specific job, you don't have a lot of say-so on specific things you do in lining out, like the advanced team, the Advon comes and they look at the perimeter and they lock down certain parts of it. You don't have a lot of say-so in that. You show up, you're given, the GOS or the GRG, you're given basically a grid reference to what's going on. They tell you to line out of the buildings. You make your own little kind of sector sketch analysis in your head, and then you get locked into position and you protect and defend. The number one priority in protecting anybody and protective services is, you got a protective security detail. You got to prevent the attack. Now, that's hard in a lot of different environments. When I did PSD, guarding a general, for example, you can get somebody walking up, going to shake a hand, and clocks himself off. There's a very dynamic world that exists in combat theater type PSD. When you have all the control because you're setting the parameters, the rally or the Trump team is laying out, hey, this is what we want to do. You get to control and constrain all of the specific things to make it safer. The fact that the building that was 120 to 150 meters away was not blocked off, meaning no access, and the perimeter was not set beyond that is beyond me. I don't know how that happens. Because the assumption, and now this is an assumption, I can't figure it out any other way unless he slept in a bay of hell or a bale of hay and woke up and crawled through the rafters and was able to get out, which he might have done, how would a shooter with a rifle that's been reported by spectators to be climbing the building, climb a building within a perimeter with an AR, get on that perimeter, set up a position, and have enough time to break off 8 shots? Thank God he had a poor zero, or just was not trained to fire under stress, or just didn't have a stable plot. Whatever the anomalies are, he didn't do well at what his intention was. So the fact that he was able to do that is the overarching problem, because that doesn't speak to me as a success. It speaks to me as a failure. Now, who had to clean that up? The counter sniper team. Also, remember, when you're a counter sniper team, in this case, you call it shooter spotter, but most details are set up where you have a shooter, and these guys are assessing, observing, and then have the ability to both shoot, because they were both on guns when this action took place. That is a very limited asset. So what other assets would you bring to bear? I don't know, helicopters, drones, perimeter security, a sound plan of security access. The list goes on. There's a whole bunch of things you could do. Seemingly, to blame the snipers would be irresponsible, because it's not the sniper's fault. They didn't set the perimeter. They didn't allow a person to infiltrate the building, get on top of it, and they had a lot to cover. Through their ocular and objective lens on how much they had in their field of view, they were using naked eye, looking above, observing, and having to go to glass and make that decision rapidly. And how long did it take to break 7 to 8 shots? Not that long, guys. I mean, you guys saw the video. Thank God that round was not an inch outside of the deviation, because Trump would have been dead. I mean, he would have got shot in the face. Can you imagine? You know, people texted me last night. Would the country have burned to the ground if that happened? Maybe.
So here was the ladder used by the shooter to get up onto the roof. Where did this ladder come from? That's a really good question.
I saw a video from Upchurch. You know Upchurch, the country music rap singer guy, right? Saw his video. And I haven't heard this from literally anybody else. And I thought it was kind of odd that nobody else has brought this up. So of all the people to bring this to my attention, it was Upchurch, the country singer, Upchurch. Not the media, not any news outlet. Upchurch brought this to my attention. Okay, so this is approximately where the stage was set up. I mean, from what I can see, it was in between these two buildings, straight out a little ways, probably at that road. Okay, if we go over, let's actually click on this. We're going to click measure distance. We're going to measure, this is the roof. This is the roof where the shooter was, right there. So roughly 150, 860 yards. That's where he was. So I'm going to back out of that. I'm going to try to drop a pin here in the parking lot. So if I open that up, oh wait, no, let's just do this. Do that. If it'll do it, I'm going to click this. Okay, that's the parking lot. So this right here is that roof that the shooter was on. Over here are those 3 buildings that you can see pretty clearly. I mean, that roof line, the barn that the counter snipers were on, is, you know, slightly taller than this building here. But what he brought up was back behind all of this. That thing, freaking water tower that nobody was on. Nobody. Secret Service didn't have that. Like, even some guy with binoculars, you don't even need a counter sniper, but you can see literally everything from there, right? I mean, I'm in the parking lot. I don't have a vantage point. I can't see from up there, but I know it's quite taller than even the trees. I don't know. Just seems a little odd that Secret Service didn't even cover that, right? Doesn't that just seem weird to you?
Stunning new video tonight showing the moment Donald Trump's would-be assassin climbed onto the roof of that building just 2 minutes before he opened fire. Yeah, look, there he is. You can hear bystanders desperately trying to alert police. Authorities now using that video as part of the investigation. And tonight, ABC News has learned that heavily armed local police were stationed inside that building and missed Thomas Crooks climbing up the outside of the building to the roof. The same building was being used as a staging area for local police, according to 2 law enforcement officials. And Butler Township officials are confirming ABC News' reporting that a local police officer climbed up the roof and confronted Brooks moments before the shooting.
The officer grabbed hold of the edge of the building, pulled himself up to be able to look, and according to what he's told me, shooter turned, rifle was pointed at the officer. The officer, defensive move, kind of ducked, fell, lost his grip on the building.
Investigators tonight trying to determine whether roof access had been properly locked down. The shooter climbing seemingly unimpeded, about 400 feet from the stage, with a direct line of sight on the former president.
Take a look at what happened.
In Washington, lawmakers demanding answers, calling on the Secret Service director to appear before Congress. We sat down with Director Kim Cheadle today for an exclusive interview.
What was your reaction when you saw the events unfold on Saturday?
Shock, and then concern, obviously, for the former president. This is an event that should have never happened.
Who is most responsible for this happening?
What I would say is that the Secret Service is responsible for the protection of the former president.
So the buck stops with you?
The buck stops with me. I am the director of the Secret Service. It was unacceptable, and it's something that shouldn't happen again.
The president and Homeland Security Secretary said today they had 100% confidence in you, but there are some members of Congress calling on you to resign.
I appreciate the Secretary's comments, and we're going to continue to be transparent.
The most genius clip is this from Milk Bar TV on Twitter.
If he was doing his job, I wouldn't even be doing this. I'd be at some beautiful place with a gorgeous ocean.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down, see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And son, I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a Senate.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look.
And it's
There
not
he is.
easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here. And it's much tougher than if it happened. We have the strongest border ever. In recorded history, we're the best border. In fact, if they could ever put up a chart, I don't know if they can do it. Do you guys have access to that chart that I love so much? You don't mind if I go off teleprompter, do you? Because these teleprompters are so damn boring, I try and explain that. Oh, there's it. Wow. You guys are doing it. They're getting better with time. My guys, take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow, right? So that's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit over that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that says, what happened.
I hope he's turning this way. Be careful, guys.
We got breaking news. We got breaking news coming in. Shots fired. Seems to be shots fired at the Trump rally. Is he okay? We need to go live right now. We are live right now at the Trump rally. We don't know if President Trump has been shot. We know he hit the ground. We do not know if President Trump has been shot. He's up. He's up. Shots are still continuing to be fired. He's giving a thumbs up, everybody. He's giving a thumbs up. Breaking news right now. This is Vanessa Broussard reporting to you live from Butler, Pennsylvania. We hear shots fired at the rally not 10 to 15 minutes after President Trump arrived. He hit the ground. Unheard of yet if he has been hit by gunfire. Secret Service quickly erupted.
We can see the guy there.
The snipers on the building behind the.
I think they hit him because the guy he looks dead.
Tell us about this interview. What did the former president tell you tonight?
Well, it's really interesting. I was just a few feet away from him, along with my daughter, who is a photojournalist. And he was aware of that because I was supposed to go to fly to Bedminster with him after the rally to do an interview with him. And so he called me this morning or this afternoon and said, and wanted to know if myself and my daughter were okay. So that's how the conversation started. And then I asked him if I could interview him, just talk to him about those moments and about how this changed him. And that's when he said, well, I was going to do a speech that was going to be a real humdinger. I think those were his exact words. But, you know, everything changed in that moment. And Abby, you have covered his events before. When you watch him at a rally, he always looks forward. Always looks forward. He never looks to his right or to his left. And he had put a screen up that showed a chart. Also never does charts. And he looked to his right, something he never does. And as he looked to his right, the bullet grazed right past his face. And I was standing right there when it happened. And he said in that moment, he understood that everything had changed for the country and for himself.
What is the speech going to be about now? I imagine that the RNC was supposed to be both a celebratory event, but also a time to make the case against his opponent. What did he tell you he's going to focus on now?
He said he was going to focus on bringing the country back together. He thought that it was very, very important that in that moment, when that happened to him, he understood this is what he wants to do, what he's supposed to do. And he talked a lot about when he stood up, and there's that sort of iconic moment when he puts his fist up. And he told me that he really wanted to project to people. He said it wasn't about him at that moment. He wanted to project to those people, and he says he loves these people, and they are the backbone. This is a Rust Belt area. This is a blue-collar, white, working-class, mostly crowd. And he wanted to project he thought it was important to project to the country in that moment that everything was okay. That he was okay and the country was okay. And I thought that was really fascinating. And he was in a very good mood. He sounded incredibly upbeat. These moments have a way of changing people. Just 1 centimeter a difference, and we would have him be talking about a much, much different story today.
What about what the last couple of hours, last 24 hours has been like for the former president? Did you get a sense of what's his life like? Who is he being surrounded by? What has he been doing? And how has he been coping with that life-changing moment that you just described?
Well, he said he's been taking phone calls and talking to people of all different political stripes, of all different stations in life. And people are talking to him and of course, making sure that he's okay. So I think that he's feeding off of that positive sort of feedback from people. I mean, I did ask him who he was with. But, you know, he was, as I was interviewing him, he was getting ready to leave Bedminster and go to Milwaukee. Something he wasn't initially going to do, but decided, you know, I'm not going to let anything change me. I need to be there. I'm supposed to be there. I'm going there.
So a lot of people are asking what legitimately took so long to get the president, the former president, into the Beast, which is the armored limousine. This is a side-by-side comparison to the Ronald Reagan shooting from 1981 to show you timelines, to show you just how drastically different
That's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
Back up, back up! Get him out! Get him out! Get him out! Get him back! Move to spare. Hold. When you're ready. On you. Ready. Move. Up. Move. Go. Up. Hawkeye's here. We ready?
Okay, we are watching live at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where former President Trump was speaking on the stage. There has been some kind of disturbance that clearly sets law enforcement and Secret Service into motion, immediately jumping around the former president in a protective mode. The crowd has been screaming. They are standing by. You can hear some voices there saying, "Are we ready to go? Are we ready to go?" We are looking at President Trump. This does not look good. I'm going to be honest with you, from what we can see right here, it looks like they are attempting to move him out, that he may have been injured. He is holding up his arm. He is pumping his fist, but clearly Secret Service wants to get him out of this situation. He is attempting to stand and walk on his own. He has got his hand pumping in the air. His fist is pumping in the air, but quickly they are removing him from the stage. This is happening very quickly. We are trying to ascertain what happened, but quickly we do know that immediately Secret Service was on him, jumping to protect him. Let's go to Alexis McAdams. She is there actually at the rally as President Trump is waving his fist but looks injured and is being taken out of this rally. Alexis, what can you tell us from there on site?
The next series of videos is a guy that was a security detail over in Iraq, and let's hear what he's got to say. He's replying to some of the comments, too, on his videos.
You know, I wasn't trained to be a Secret Service agent, but I did do a lot of training in diplomatic protection and HVT engagement and escort. Never, ever could I ever see a scenario where I would let the target that I am actively protecting be that exposed immediately following an incident. Insane. What is going on? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but like targets under my protection, and there's a immediate threat. I think everybody that I know who's ever gone through any type of training like that, it is tuck and chuck. You tuck them down, get them the hell out of there as fast as humanly possible, and get on the road. Am I just like old? I got out in 2012, so maybe my training is old. I don't know. Something seems off here. Folks who were in Fallujah or Ramadi in the early 2000s might remember the saying, you can fight in the house or you can die in the street. The reason that saying became so popularized among our ground forces was because when you are charged with protecting someone and you start taking fire, you need to move very quickly out of the place where you just received engagement. Because if you don't, you are going to die. And you're going to die because someone has their sights trained on you. You've just confirmed that by taking fire. Dogpiling, this idea of putting a bunch of humans on top of the asset you're trying to protect, does not work. I'm going to point to you to the pictures of Trump's face inside that dog pile. If a camera can capture his face, a bullet can find it as well. Do you understand? Dogpiling creates a larger target of opportunity than would be just moving your asset. A moving target is harder to hit than a stationary target. On top of that, most protective detail training that I'm aware of surrounds the asset as they're extracting. And the extraction should happen so freaking quickly that there won't be time to engage that asset. But either way, keeping yourself stationary after receiving small arm fire is never a good idea. Please do not do that. Please run and seek cover. No, nobody's missing that. What we're saying is that it is completely incongruent with what we would expect from the Secret Service. What we saw was something that can't be explained by incompetence alone. It can't be. The standard behavior of a security detail when the person you are protecting comes under threat of death is to remove them faster than anyone can blink. No getting down. No, none of that. No hunkering in position. No waiting for the threat to be neutralized and then all clear and then we stand up and we everybody cheers USA. That's not real. That doesn't happen in real life. That what we saw does not make sense to people who have been in these types of situations on both sides. Do you understand what I'm saying? Something is off here. Ask yourself, why wasn't anybody clearing the crowd? Why didn't anybody assume that the bullets could be coming from the crowd? Watch the behavior of the agents. Some of them never look at the crowd behind them. Really think about this. It does not matter at all what Trump is saying. It doesn't matter. The moment his protective detail identifies that he is under threat, Trump would have been tackled off of that stage and removed and placed into an armored vehicle in less than 10 seconds. That is SOP, standard operating procedure. It does not matter if that person that you're protecting is telling you stop. It doesn't matter if they say, no, let me XYZ. That person, the moment a threat emerges, no longer has agency over their body. The protective detail owns their body. The protective detail owns their physical reality until they are in an armored vehicle and extracted. And that all is supposed to happen in 10 seconds. Something fucking off here. The fact that people are saying, oh, well, on the radio, you can hear them saying the shooter was down. At no point in any protective detail training does anyone ever assume that there is just one threat. You always assume that there is an unknown number of threats the moment any threat emerges, which is why SOP dictates that you extract your protectee out of the environment as fast as humanly possible. This doesn't make any sense. This is 100% accurate, 100%. Now, I'm speaking about PSD and the Marines, not in the Secret Service. I'm confident that all of Secret Service's SOPs are classified. But I can tell you, as in a previous video I said, the concept of tuck and chuck. Tuck your protectee and you chuck them into an armored vehicle. There are 3 components to providing safety in a situation like this, which means there are 3 components that each individual agent is uniquely fixed on. Someone's going to be the tucker. Someone's entire job is the moment a threat emerges is to get Trump to the fucking ground. Get him out of sight, out of mind, and definitely off of an elevated exposed position. The next type of agent is going to be a chucker. Those are the people whose entire job is to pick him up, fold him in half, and place him into an armored vehicle. That's it. They only exist in that moment in reality to move his physical body from point A to point B. The next type of agent is the fuckers. You've got the tuckers, the chuckers, and the fuckers. The fuckers are designed to make sure that there is nobody in the way of the extraction team moving him from point A to point B, which is the other thing that's really, really fucky about all of this. The fact that the Secret Service were moving so slow in their little formation, and the fact that they allowed camera people to go right in front of them and walk between them as they were moving. Absolutely not. Those camera people would have been in the ground stampeded over. There would not be an opportunity for a photo op. I don't think people are understanding how monstrously quickly that person would have been extracted from that situation, and an armored vehicle would be barreling the fuck out of there. Several armored vehicles would be barreling the fuck out of there. Several of them. None of this adds up.
So here's what he's talking about the principal not even having their feet touch the ground. This is the May 15th attempted assassination on President Robert Fico of Slovakia. And watch his security detail. They tuck and chuck him into that armored limousine without question.
Okay, folks. Some interesting investigation going on social media, but check this out. You're going to see a guy come walking over here, and he's going to start grabbing these people and moving them. There's Trump. It's just before Trump gets shot, and I mean just before. They are moving people out of the way. Watch. Here he comes. Excuse me, sir. Can you move out the way, yeah? Can you go? Thank you. Get over there. What's he doing? And watch how he just drops down when the shooting goes off. That's how that is. Now let's watch the clown show of the women detail that they gave Trump for this event. Yeah. This definitely needs the clown music added to it. Look, Police Academy 1. Here we go. Yeah. What do? I don't know. Shall I do it? I'll put my sunglasses on. There you go. Look good. The shirt's all right. Yeah, what do you reckon? Right, look good. Yeah, you're looking good. Yeah, anything over there? I don't know. What should we do? Let's just go this way. It's laughable, isn't it? Oh, should we go back to the car quick and let's pretend to protect the car at 4 foot tall? Yeah, it's silly. These aren't ready for that kind of event for me. So, yeah.
So to make the point that Trump is garnering support, here is from Tim Robbins, who made a film critical of a tyrannical dictator, fictitious, of course. This has 1 million views on social media so far, and people are rallying around Trump. What a perfect segue.
At the still images, you can see the bullet that pierced his right ear as he gets up with blood smeared on his face.
Look what happened.
This horrific act has just deepened an already huge divide in the United States of America. But if you were following media outlets like CNN today, well, you would have thought that Donald Trump had a fall. Look at this headline. Secret Service rushed Trump off stage after he falls at rally.
That clip segues us into the next controversial point. The alleged bullet frozen whizzing past Trump's head, shot by New York Times photographer Doug Mills. He posted his metadata information from his camera, which supposedly cannot be manipulated, which showed that he was shooting at 1/8,000th of a second with a wide-angle lens with the f-stop wide open. Now, security detail stuff is way outside of my wheelhouse, but I've been a professional photographer since 1992 or so, and let's talk a little bit about photography. All of you photographers can chime in. Tell me when the last time was when you shot at a 1/8,000th of a second shutter. That is the fastest shutter speed that any modern camera can shoot. That will freeze helicopter blades. 1/4,000th of a second will freeze helicopter blades or hummingbird wings. Now, just so you understand how f-stops and shutter speeds work, they double. So it goes from 1/25th of a second to 250 to 500th of a second to 1/1000th to 1/2000 to 1/4000th to 1/8000. Each one of those is 100% or one f-stop away from each other. Why on earth would anybody be needing to shoot at 1/8000th of a second to freeze action on a person that is standing still? Let me know your thoughts. Here's a quick clip with him. All I'm saying is that you could have frozen the action with a wide lens at 125th of a second or 1/250th of a second for sure with a wide lens.
We're remembering what happened Saturday in photographs, and our next guest is a Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist, Doug Mills from the New York Times, and before that, the Associated Press. He has documented every president since Ronald Reagan, and on Saturday, it was Mills who was at former President Donald Trump's campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, in the press area that's right below the podium, and when the gunshots rang out, it was Mills who captured this photo on your screen, appearing to show a bullet flying very close to the former president. Doug Mills joins us now. Doug, thank you very much.
Good morning, Tony. Thank you
for being here. You know, for a lot of people, what happened Saturday is unthinkable, but in your line of work, you have to do some thinking ahead of time that this is a possibility. You've got to prepare. How did that preparation meet reality, and what did you see?
Experience matters, you know, in something like this. I have covered presidents since 1983, and focusing in and just, you know, trying to stay focused on something like this. I never, ever envisioned something like this happening.
Yeah.
You know, tragic event, and it's not something you can train for, really, but you can think about it. If it ever happened, what would you do? What would you do? But more than that, it's you know, something that instinct jumped in.
Yeah.
And when the shots rang out, I immediately thought it was some sort of vehicle. But then when I saw him kind of grimace and look to his right and then grab his ear and look at it, I thought, and then he went down. I was like, oh my gosh, he's been shot.
People are ducking, they're going down.
Screaming.
You have the wherewithal to keep shooting. You work with a Sony camera. It takes, I think, 30 frames a second. That's
Yes.
it's a very
Sony
high
A1.
number. So
Yes.
you keep firing, and you capture these images. When do you realize that what you have is potentially something for the history books?
That moment where he ducked and went down, and then everything after that happened so fast. When he was ushered off the stage, I thought that was going to be the picture, that, you know, he was bloodied ear, he gave that, you know, fist pump. And I thought, you know, as I'm looking back at my camera, I'm sending pictures directly to the New York Times from my camera. So we were ushered into the president's hold, which was formerly his hold, because we were in like a crime scene area. So they ushered us in there, and so I was sending pictures back to the office. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I forgot to send the pictures of him while he was speaking.
Yeah.
So I started looking through, and I saw him, you know, grimace and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, this might have been the moment he was shot. So I sent those in right away. I called our editor, Jennifer, and I was like, Jen, take a real close look at these images, because I think this is when he was shot. Wow. And so she goes, well, right now, we don't even know if he was shot. I said, when you see these images, you're going to know, because he grimaces and he grabs, and there's blood on his hand. So they looked at him, and about 5 minutes later, I got a text and a call from her saying, you won't believe this. We think we have a picture, you have a picture of the bullet behind his head. And I was like, oh my gosh. So she sent it to me right away, and I said, well, wait just a few minutes, because that's a JPEG file from my camera. Let me go and open up my laptop and put the raw image out, which has all the data in it.
Yeah.
And I did that, sent it up, and then the FBI forensic, I guess somebody who they hired or somebody who looked at it and said, hey, this is definitely the bullet.
There's a moment there after the former president is hit by what appears to have been that bullet, where his fist is raised, there's blood on his face, the American flag is overhead, and there is strength, vitality. It is a hero shot in many people's view. Were there other moments where the enormity of what had just happened seems to settle with the president?
Yeah, I think, you know, great point, Tony, because as soon as he raised his fist and pumped it, you know, he was defiant as, you know, as all get out, and looking at the crowd and yelling at them. And then I think the shock hit him. Like, there's a couple frames after that where he is like, excuse me, completely, his face is like blank, and he's looking out into the crowd, and he's now hearing all the screaming, and people are crying, And I think that hit him right then. And he is completely blank look. He looked very pale at the time. And then all the blood was on his ear and then coming out of it or around his mouth. And I thought, oh my gosh, I hope it's not as bad as it looks.
Yeah. You know, the work you do is so important for keeping history in the mind's eye, for recording it for the future. And I know you had a mentor, I mentioned the Associated Press earlier, who took photos of Ronald Reagan's attempted assassination, that shooter there. He had advice for you. You've now lived through it yourself. I wonder if you have advice for other people working today and into the future.
Yeah, Ron Edmonds was there when President Reagan was, the assassination attempt happened. And I talked to Ron many times after that. I worked with him for 15 years. And one of the only things that stuck out with me was I said, you know, how did you not blink? How did you not look away and see what was going on and you kept shooting? He said, when it happened, I just instinctively went forward rather than backwards. And that always stuck with me, that go forwards, don't go backwards. So when it happened, even though all of the former president's staff are yelling at me, get down, the Secret Service are yelling at us, get down. I just, probably didn't do the safest thing, but I ran around the side of the stage to try and, capture those moments.
We're glad you're okay. I know your family's glad you're okay. Briefly, as a final question, how are you preparing for what happens here?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. And I think we're going to see the former president tonight, I believe. It'll be interesting to see what kind of, mood he's in and how he looks and how he sounds. I have no doubt that he's going to be as positive as ever and defiant. Yeah. And I'm sure it's going to shape the rest of the campaign.
Yeah, these are usually scripted affairs, but there are always surprises.
Exactly.
And we know you've got your lens trained on those surprises. So, Doug Mills, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And here's a video skeptical of the entire incident. Tell me what your thoughts are here.
Today, the Republican National Convention kicked off, and Donald Trump was in attendance, and pictures of him have people asking questions. So this was him earlier in the day with a bandage on his ear that looks more like he took a tea bag and taped it to it. And it sort of makes me laugh because this has the same energy as this. Like, what do you mean you can't come into work, says the boss. I'm sick, I'm in the hospital. Send me a picture to prove it. Kind of thing. But then this evening he showed up and no bandage. And a lot of people looking at his ear and going, wait a minute, what's going on? Because as you may recall, he made a statement about what happened. He said, I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and then immediately felt the bullet ripping through my skin. So everyone expected to have like a big chunk of the top of his ear gone. Only that just looks like his ear. There's no chunk missing. There's no scab. There's not even so much as a Band-Aid. Which does make me think about something I read early on. TMZ, I think, was the first to carry it. A source who has spoken with a member of the Secret Service tell TMZ Trump was not hit by a bullet, rather, a bullet hit his teleprompter and glass struck him by the ear. And a few publications have carried it. Raw Story did a piece sort of dismissing it. MSN had this headline, not so fast, Donald Trump was hit by glass from a shattered teleprompter, not a bullet. According to sources, it was actually two sources. Here's the thing. Bullets from an assassin who's trying to kill you, hitting a teleprompter, and glass from that hitting you and cutting you is still serious. It was still somebody trying to kill you. And you're very, very lucky if it was just glass that cut you. Except, if this is what happened, there's no scenario where medical professionals didn't tell Donald Trump, hey, you were hit by shattered glass from a teleprompter, not by a bullet. And then he went on to release a statement that said, I immediately felt the bullet ripping through my skin. I feel like someone would be like, Mr. President, I have good news. Glass from a teleprompter actually is what cut you. It's a very small, clean cut. That's why it bled so much. But you're going to be okay. And he's like, no, it was a bullet. And they're like, no, a bullet would have done significantly more damage. You were just cut by broken glass. Still very serious, Mr. President. No, I felt the bullet ripping through my skin. But glass would explain this. I mean, a small, clean cut, especially in that area, would bleed profusely. That's why wrestlers used to cut themselves in their hairline, and blood would just dump, and it looked terrific. It would be like this. No scab, no Band-Aid needed. After like 2 days, it would just kind of be closed up. Now, Raw Story argued no, because we saw that photo from the New York Times photographer where the bullet was whipping by him in the frame. I'm sorry, the version of the photo that I found, someone photoshopped the angel of Jeffrey Epstein saving him. But I say, how do we know that's the bullet that hit his ear? We don't know that. He said, I heard shots whizzing by, coming close to him. From this angle and that depth or force perspective, you can't really gauge how far away that bullet was in front of him or behind him. But it's not as cool as graphs like this that show that he just miraculously turned his head the right way. It's not as cool as all the people who are making Photoshop memes about how he's Neo in the Matrix, dodging bullets. Getting cut with glass instead of dodging bullets just isn't as cool. And Donald Trump likes to be cool. You know what is cool? President Joe Biden calling the family of the man who died at that rally, a man who didn't want him reelected. And his widow declined to speak to him because she said, "My husband wouldn't have wanted me to." Meanwhile, the family has not heard from Trump. He hasn't called, he hasn't visited or called the other two people who were critically injured. No, he's in Milwaukee, looking just fine.
All right, you guys, thanks for watching that video. That was an hour-long version of clip by clip by clip. Some really great information only 3 days after the incident. Like I said, I'm sure this video will be completely dated in a week, a month, 6 months from now. However, there's some really solid information that's out there thus far. So again, thanks for watching this video. If you like the content, you want to find your way back, subscribe to the channel. Tell me what your thoughts are, man. Go tell me. I want to hear your points on both sides of this, on whether or not this was a publicity stunt, whether or not this was an actual attempt on his life. And here's the great part. Thank you guys for watching the video. I love all of you. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I love all of you. Except that one guy.